Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of It's Bigger Than Business podcast. Grateful to be joined by the one and only Kim Lewis, CEO of CurlMix. How are you doing today, Kim?
I'm doing well, Manny. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Awesome. My pleasure. So I met Kim at Black Tech Week, um, and she was just really just high energy, asking great questions to interviewers. And, sure enough for me to I Googled you in the crowd. I'm like, oh, wait, you're the founder of CurlMix. So why don't you tell the audience about CurlMix and your journey so far?
Hello, everyone. I'm Kim, CEO and co-founder of CurlMix, and we help women master their curls in 21 days. So our product is free via store credit. We have a 4-step system to help women get the wash and go, the best wash and go ever. If you see my hair, if you've seen a picture of me, that's the style. That's what most people are trying to get. We didn't start that way, though. We started as a do-it-yourself box for curly hair. So think like Blue Apron, but for hair. And we did that for about 2 years and then pivoted to our flaxseed gel, which is our hero product. People loved it so much. And we were one of the first, if not only brands to make real flaxseed gel. A lot of what's out there, it's like synthetic gels, they add flaxseed oil to it. But literally, if you boil raw flax seeds and it makes a gooey gel and you extract it and you put it in your hair, that's what we're doing. And it's really what makes us special. And so we just turned that flaxseed gel into a 4-step system over the next several years. And we were featured on Shark Tank, Forbes 30, Oprah's Favorite Things. We were number 93 out of 5,000 privately held companies, the fastest growing, according to Inc. And we've done a few other things too, but those, just to name a few.
Congratulations. Congratulations. So when did you get started with CurlMix? Like what year?
This was 2015. I actually had a startup in 2013. It was for a niche social network for natural hair. But you learn niche social networks don't work. If you're in tech, don't start one. And there's so many like natural hair apps. People come to me all the time, and I wish I could tell them like, don't do it. But I don't want to like discourage people, but I did that back in 2013. So it is. Sorry, go ahead.
Was that your first startup, or did you have?
Yes.
Were you an entrepreneur before that? So that was the first one.
I sold like paperclip earrings back in high school, but outside of that, like I went to college for business, studied supply chain management and marketing, and learned a lot. I got to see the behind the scenes, which I think is a privilege in a way. Most people don't get to see the manufacturing side, supply chain management, logistics side of businesses. They just go to the store and buy a box of cereal. They didn't see the machines that made that cereal, the trucks that transported it, the automatic machines that packaged it, the pallet that was wrapped, the delivery.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like and so that was kind of like my experience, a window into business.
And that's in college. You got that insight, or?
Yes.
Nice. What college did you go to?
University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign.
Okay. All right, because I was like, that sounds like a Midwest college. I just wanted to make sure.
Definitely. And you know what it was? I was studying marketing at the time, and I was like hearing people were making right out of school in marketing, and realizing that all the Black girls in the college were doing marketing. I was like, oh, if I want to get a job, I'm gonna have to differentiate myself and have some like harder skills. And I say harder, but like they typically call it marketing a soft skill, and like technical or mathematical things or coding or whatever are hard skills. So supply chain management was a hard skill I was trying to acquire. And I ended up getting my job, of course, in supply chain management after college. And I was, because there were just, it's not many people who even know that it's an industry or a job that you can, just.
I agree.
And so we did that. But again, and now after college, I had started working at a grocery chain as a district manager in training, because you kind of see the front end to the back end. You have to manage the customer sales, but you also have to manage inventory and get all the goods for your store. And so they take you and walk you through the whole behind the scenes of the store. I thought that was super cool. Even though I hated working there, my manager told me I stuck to my job every single day. Literally his words. I did not suck, but he wanted me to work like 15 hours a day. And I was just like, bro, like, I'm not doing that. So, but anyway, I wanted to start my own business. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I didn't really figure that out until college and maybe my last semester. So I kind of started my niche social network while I was working at the district, at the grocery store chain, and then eventually quit the grocery store chain. And I signed up my husband for Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and he ended up winning $100,000 on the show.
Whoa, wow. Were you in the audience and everything? Like,
Oh
did
yeah,
you?
yeah. We were like
Wow.
21. We would sit together and he would answer every question right for 2 hours straight watching the show. I was like, nobody does this. I was like, you're special. I'm gonna sign you at the end of the show. He's like, this is dumb. Like,
Wow.
it's a lottery. I'm not gonna win. He ended up getting out of 200 people that tested that day. I bought his ticket and his like appearance, not even appearance, just for him to take the test. You got to buy a ticket every day to like go. And out of 200 people, he scored in the top like 2 or 3 people, which I knew he would.
Wow.
And then he ended
Wow.
up getting interviewed, and then 2 weeks later they called him back to be on the show, and then he won
Wow.
$100,000.
I love that support. All my women listeners, this is how you support your man right there. I love that.
And my man was all potential. I mean, he was great. It was wonderful. But I was just like, he needed that little push, like someone who believed things that he didn't think was possible. And so he ended up winning the money, but we didn't get it right away. So I ended up working. I had quit my job at the grocery store chain, and I literally went to go be a photographer for children, saying "Goo Goo Gaga" after I had graduated from college with quitting my 70K job. And I went down to making like $10 an hour, and he was making $9 at Starbucks. And we were freshly married. So that was such an interesting
Oh
time
wow. Yeah.
with the niche
And,
social network for natural hair.
and were y'all living in Chicago or where?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes. And then after doing that for about a year and a half, I was like, I got my first check for advertising on my website. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to compete with Facebook. I'll never beat Facebook. And this is back in 2013 when the CPMs were low. I'm like, I'll never beat Facebook.
Yeah.
I was like, I need to, but by that time I had picked up graphic design, video editing, website build. I had built up a lot of skills running my startup. So my husband was working full time and he ended up getting a job in tech after working at Starbucks. I know, don't even ask. He can read the manual and learn things. Like that is his jam, which is why he makes a great COO, because he can pretty much do anything I need him to do.
Love it.
So he was working at Starbucks. I was working at the photo studio. We ended up winning the money, but then it was only really 100,000 after taxes is 80K. So it's like a salary for a year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Still super helpful because we were able to, it helped us navigate that whole startup piece. And then I quit my social network. I was like, this is not a good idea. I'm never gonna be able to make enough money at this. And I didn't even think about fundraising. I didn't even know venture was a thing back then. I was just trying to build my own app. I didn't know how to raise money. I didn't even know you could do that. So I was like, the next business I do is gonna make money on day one, because I'm not doing this bootstrapping a tech startup thing. This is foolish.
Yeah.
And that's when we started the DIY box about a year and a half later. We had moved to Atlanta to kind of be in the center of natural hair, since that's what we were building. And we did that for about a year. And the business was like stagnant, 130K one year, 140K the next year. And I was like, this is not growing like a subscription box should grow. And I was at the point where I was either going to like close the business or go like close the business and go to get my MBA, or pivot to a product company. And it was hard. It was hard to do. But I ended up like failing the GMAT. I was like, oh, this ain't it. This ain't it for me. Like, and my husband would joke. He's like, Kim, if you're successful as an entrepreneur, they'll invite you to teach. You don't have to, you don't go the other way. And I was just like,
I love that.
All right, fine. So then we just kept going. And so yes, so that's how we ended up. Long story short, this is how we ended up here today.
Wow. So when did the epiphany moment happen for CurlMix? Because I feel like that's a super niche, right?
We were watching an episode of Shark Tank, which is so funny because we ended up being on Shark Tank. But we were watching an episode of Shark Tank where the lady would have these organic cookies, and she had everything in little baggies. So you didn't have to go shopping at a Whole Foods to buy all the stuff, but you knew everything in there was organic. And you could make it yourself. So you still felt, it was like Betty Crocker, but DIY-ish, but organic. And I was like, dang, this is back when I was just first going natural, fresh out of college. I was like, man, I wish someone would do this for hair. And I was like, you know what, this must be a bad idea, because at the time there were tons of subscription boxes. And my husband was like, Kim, you should just give it a shot. And he actually helped me name it. He named it CurlMix. It was funny. I didn't come up with the name. He did. And I was like, I've launched it. So one box to my cousin. This is in 2015. And I was like, see, I told you it was a dumb idea. I shouldn't do it. I should do something different. And then he was like, no, Kim, if Airbnb could relaunch 7 times, surely CurlMix can relaunch twice. So you just didn't read the right books. So it's funny. My husband's like strategy and like has all this knowledge, but literally like lazy genius, like won't do anything. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's gonna sit here with all this information. And I'm like, how you
Yeah.
been doing this whole time that I needed to read 4-Hour Work Week and influence by Robert Cialdini, or Donnie, I think is his name, or he gave me all these different resources. I read them all, relaunched, sold 100 boxes on the first day. And then that's kind of how we started the DIY box. It was only 2 years later that I realized, okay, I needed to pivot to get to that $1 million in revenue. And that's when we leaned into the flaxseed gel the next year, and then the 4-step kit at the top of 2018.
Yeah.
And that was the year we made $1 million. And then in 2019, we appeared on Shark Tank, and that was the year we made $5 billion. So,
Wow.
and then we had raised 1.2 million from the former CEO of LinkedIn, and Arlen Hamilton wrote us our first check for 25K back in 2018, that top of that year.
Wow.
Yeah. So
As an angel investor.
Yep.
That's incredible. So, we have a lot of listeners in our audience that are business owners. They are also, some of them are actively trying to raise. Some of them are a Black woman as well. So, like, what advice would you give founders out there who are, going through the process and going through the meetings? What advice would you give founders?
If you're gonna raise money, it's the hamster wheel. So you don't say, I'm gonna raise money, then stop. That's gonna mess you up for future funding rounds. So if you're gonna fundraise, keep going, and you're gonna have to be smart. If you want to maintain more equity, you have to build something of value first, and then get an investor a little bit later. So for example, I didn't raise $1 million to make $1 million. I had already made $1 million, then raised $1 million. So that means that I only gave up 10% of the company for my first round. Typical rounds are about 20%. So if you start with nothing, you're probably going to give up at least 20%, because that's all the capital in the business. My next piece of advice is, once you get that seed round, you're on a clock. You've got a year to have those results in hand before you go out for raising more money. I had those results in hand, and I had a hard time fundraising, and I kind of stopped fundraising for a year or so. And it basically made me flat because I didn't grow, right? But I didn't have cash infusion to grow. So that was one of my biggest lessons. Like, I'll never do that again. And so I ended up crowdfunding after that, $4.5 million from about 7,000 customers. And
Wow.
that was super helpful because you control the terms, you control the equity, you control the board. But you can't do crowdfunding too many times, because if it's not successful, it is not attractive to investors and it will scare them away.
Yeah.
But I think that it only scares investors away because they don't have control. And one of my friends jokes that investors like to rob founders. I'm not saying that, but I just thought it was funny when she said it,
Yeah, well, you have to understand option pools and terminology,
Yeah.
But no,
Because investors arbitrarily need this 100x that they so desperately need. 3x is not good enough.
3x. No.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I know one person's supposed to pay back the fund. I get it. That's the model. But
Yeah.
my advice for product founders is, you're probably gonna have to make money before you can raise it, especially founders of color. Unfortunately, the deck is stacked against us. And so we have to, those are some of the things that are just, I had to do to get where I am.
No, I love it. And I bought a bag. This guy, his name is Chad Justin, and he makes wearable backpacks, and they could detach, and you could put like a different
Oh, that's cool.
backpack. Yep. So he's a member. He actually just graduated from Ohio State, and we've been helping him just kind of connect him to some people. And but yeah, no, that is, how many meetings do you think you probably went through, I guess, before you get that first yes?
Hundreds. And I pitched everywhere. Like, I probably did maybe 50 to 100 pitch competitions and never actually won money. I could be making the most money up there, but that's not what pitch competitions are for. They're for people who sound very sexy and who are very charismatic. So if your company's not sexy and you're not charismatic, you're probably not going to win the pitch competition, unfortunately. But I say still pitch anyway, because it makes you good at it. And then you never know who's watching. So all of my investors that I've gotten, they were watching in the crowd when I was doing that kind of stuff. You may not get the money from the competition, but you'll get the money in the crowd. So I recommend pitching so much. I also want to add, Manny, I put in a lot of my own money. Me and Tim, our own money, not mine. We share a bank account. our own money
Mhm.
early on. So that the 2 years I was doing, like the year and a half I was doing the initial social network, and then the 2 years we were doing the DIY box, we probably accumulated about 100,000 in credit card debt. About 4 years figuring it out of our own
Mhm.
money. And he worked in tech full time and I worked full time on the business. So people sometimes look at me and say, "You're 30. How did you get here so quickly?" And it's like, I've been married. I've been with the same guy since I was 16 and we've always worked together. So it's like having two people working for free, two really good
Yeah,
people working for free.
yeah, well, and that's amazing. That's teamwork and the beauty of kind of getting to that final destination together, and it's all part of the journey. So that's I feel like there's going to be a movie or a documentary about y'all life story because
Oh,
there's a
that's
lot of motivational things I can see that you really help each other a lot. That's awesome.
thank you.
So we're approaching the end. Well, I met you at Black Tech Week. Are there any events? It's now August 2022. So, um, are there any events that you're excited to go to or on your radar for the rest of the year?
I wish, how everybody's going to the Hamptons this weekend or whatever, or like
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
I don't got no rich
Martha's
friends in the
Vineyard.
Hamptons. So if you want to be
Yeah.
my rich friend in the Hamptons so I could go next year, I would love that.
I was like, where is this invite? Everyone's at Martha's Vineyard. I'm like, what? Like posting about it, having some
I'm not
great
cool enough.
retreat.
I'm in the Midwest, okay, working on logistics, moving my warehouse. That's what we doing.
Yeah, I'm in Cleveland, so yeah. If anybody want to
Dang.
pull up, what about what about Afrotech? Are you going to that in November in Austin?
I think so. Typically I try to like wait to be invited to speak to some of these places, but I don't think I'm gonna get an invite at Afrotech. Maybe.
Hey, well, Afrotech, you heard it here. What are y'all doing? Hit up Kim. Come on. I
But
have
my
that on.
go ahead.
No, I have that on the circle in November. So hoping that and then Art Basel in Miami.
Yeah, but I'm probably gonna end up going to Afrotech and Art Basel anyway. It's just a good time, but you also just I love like the networking on steroids where you just meet everybody. Oh my gosh, you're so and so, and you're so and so, and you're so and so. Like you see all these people
Yeah,
online. So I'll be
for
there.
sure.
I'll be there. But if anyone wants to follow me, my Instagram is Kim Lewis CEO, and it's actually me posting. So it's not like I hired somebody to like make cool content for me and post it. It's actually me.
Kim Lewis CEO on Instagram and
Mm-hmm.
CurlMix.com.
Mm-hmm.
Kim, we really, really, really appreciate your time. Thank you. Congratulations on all your success. Um, any final closing messages for the audience?
Don't quit, and so it's okay for your company to fail, but you not to quit, like you can have a failed company and pivot into something else or take those learnings and do something else. But if you know that you're a born entrepreneur, don't quit on yourself.
I love it. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Have a great day.
Thanks, Manny.